My name is Dave Anderson. I'm a straight incorporated survivor from January 21st, 1978 to February of 1981. I'm here today with Crystal, and she's a CEDU survivor, and she's agreed to be interviewed this afternoon. So how you doing, Crystal?
I'm okay, Dave. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. You know, like I said, considering the circumstances, I'm doing well.
Yeah.
What years did you go to the CEDU?
I was at CEDU 1989 to 1992. I was sent there when I was 15 years old. Um, a lot of kids in the troubled teen industry were kidnapped and taken. I was not kidnapped. I was tricked. So my mother told me we were going on a vacation. I was really actually excited. And she, so we went to vacation actually up in Big Bear. And um, our second or third day there, she said, "There's a little nature camp I want to take you to. I think you might like it. You want to go have a tour?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" So I went there, and I was on a tour, and I don't know what happened, but something really scared me all of a sudden. And I asked the other student who was giving me a tour if I could go back to the office to my mom. And when I got back to the office, I said, "Where's my mom?" And they said, "She's gone." And I said, "No, there's been a horrible mistake. Um, I'm only supposed to be looking here. I'm not supposed to be staying. Can I use your phone to call her?" And they said, "Sorry, there's no phones." So I was abandoned there, and I couldn't call my mom, to even clear up the misunderstanding or make my case. um, so yeah, as a 15-year-old, it was pretty traumatic. It was pretty traumatic for me. If the entire experience didn't traumatize me for life, then that certainly would have.
Now, you said you felt abandoned, and I understand that. Whereabouts is this place? Where were you?
Running Springs, California.
Okay. The staff member or this other person that was walking you around, did you see any other people there? What was your impression of them? I mean, the whole complex, the whole gimmick.
Yeah, so well, it was up in the mountains, on a huge piece of property. I did like nature, which is why my mom used that as kind of a trick to get me to go there, for the tour. Um, so, I mean, my first impressions, were that it was up in the mountains and, lovely in that respect. Um, I'm not quite sure. I think what I thought of the place changed every minute over the course of my first, few weeks there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when I went there, I really like literally I had no education. I didn't know what abuse was. Um, I didn't have any reference points for understanding where I was or why I was there or what was happening. But because
Mm-hmm.
I went there with such little education on very, what seem to be normal things nowadays that we teach kids about abuse and how to, tell a grown up and all these things. Um, I had nothing. So it's really weird for me because when I got there, I was like really prime material for their horribly twisted social experiment. Um, so, they would, they'd walk me around. This is the program. This is what we do. These are the rules. And I think that I really believed what they were doing was to help me. I didn't know or see any of the red flags of abuse like I would today with the knowledge I have. So I really, I believed everything they told me and everything they said. Um, and I took everything, you know, really to heart.
Yeah. Were you a sensitive person to begin with?
Yes, very.
Okay. How did you mentioned, the rules. How were the rules established? I mean, was it in writing? Did they talk about it once? Did they repeat them every day? Because they did for us. We had all the time, we had every day at 6 o'clock p.m., we had rules wrap. And that's when they would, we would all explain the rules to each other. And they changed the rules daily, and you had to remember them and you had to be able to recite them as well as the chain of command in the joint. Was it similar with CEDU?
Um, so yeah, um, we didn't have any organized, time to review the rules like you guys did. Um, but they were definitely enforced every day. I was never, I don't think, handed a piece of paper with rules on it. I think it was really a process of trying to remember everything I was told. And
Right.
um, yeah, and then yeah, just kind of trying to remember. And a lot of the rules were kind of strange. I remember getting in a lot of trouble because I didn't sleep between two sheets, but I slept on top of my sheet under my comforter. And that was like
Hmm.
against the rules, and I got yelled at about that. So, yeah, it was hard to remember all the
That's
rules,
pretty
especially,
trivial.
yeah, it was, hard to remember them, especially when they didn't make sense and they were so ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, did they explain how the whole game was supposed to be played? How the program was supposed to work?
Nope.
Did they have
It was really
did
a
they have
process.
like a
It was really, sorry, it was really a process of watching and observing.
okay. Did they have like an expectation of what your outcome was supposed to be? Was there like a treatment plan?
If there was a treatment plan, it was the same for every single person. Um, and so it was basically, you go through the program. And if that took you 2 years, then okay. If it took you three, then okay. Um, but there were, you know, um, increments of time and corresponding, there were certain workshops or experiences that we had to go through. And so you were really done with the program when you were done with all those experiences.
One of those experiences was called Profit.
Yeah, there was, they were profits. Yeah.
Profits. I had never heard of that term before. You know, part of the sacred language of these places. What exactly is a profit?
So a profit is a 24-hour workshop, basically. And um, we were taken with a small group of people into basically a room, and we were locked in there with a couple staff members for 24 hours. We weren't really allowed to sleep or eat or drink water or go to the bathroom. And they were really intensive and aggressive and really terrifying, and very deliberately so. So in a profit, there would be, it was different depending on which one you were in, but there would be strange, psychologically twisted exercises that we would have to act out with our peers. There would be many, many hours of attack therapy. There would be a lot of playing the same song over and over and over and over again, brainwashing us.
Were they like popular songs or regular?
No, so music was actually considered really bad and evil at CEDU. So there was a couple songs that they would play over and over and over again, and it was usually some John Denver song.
Okay. See, what's interesting to me is we weren't allowed any music in the building at all when I was there, and we had to actually sing our songs. We had to sing nursery songs and campfire songs, Little Rabbit Foo Foo. We had to sing Green Acres. We had to sing all these, it's a small world, and I think part of that was, after what we called raps, the singing just kept our young minds mush. We were too busy singing and being humiliated doing all of these stupid things that the mind fuck was that we didn't have time to critically think. Not that a 14-year-old could, mind you, but that whole music thing, it's horrible.
Yeah.
In these profits, was there violence, or were there threats of violence, intimidation, or anything?
Absolutely. Intimidation. Yeah, the threat, CEDU was really sneaky. So the threat of violence, it wasn't a physical, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Although the attack therapy would bring staff members right here.
Right.
And it was really scary, but the threat was more, it was psychological. So it was really like, you do what we say and you participate in the ways that we are telling you to, or else this whole room is going to be turned on you. And yeah, so the threat was of being attacked, shamed, and humiliated in front of this group of people that you were with in the profit.
How many people were in the profit at the same time?
So we went through the school with what they call our peer group. And the peer group were any of the kids who arrived there, like within a 3-month period of time. All of them would be in the same peer group, and then they'd go through all the profits and workshops together, and move through the school program together. So in a peer group, there could be anywhere 20 people-ish, I'd say.
Were you segregated or isolated with the same 20 people? I mean, could you interact with the other people inside?
So during the profit, you were only in the profit with your peer group.
Right.
And so, but when you were not in the profit, so just regular everyday stuff, we were not segregated. Everybody was kind of, in the school together.
Okay. Okay. Other than the profits, what was daily life there like there? Did y'all attend school or anything
So
like that?
strangely enough, you'd think that a place marketing themselves as a high quality therapeutic boarding school and a college prep would actually have
Uh-huh.
classes.
Right.
We okay, I remember I remember one we were supposed to be in an English class, and the staff member had us watch Star Trek The Next Generation, every single episode beginning to end. Like each day we'd watch a different episode, and then we were supposed to write about what happened. That was our English class. Now, I'm a huge fan of sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely not school. So a normal day would look like waking up, cleaning the dorm, going to the house for breakfast, um, cleaning up the dining room, and then going on work crews, and doing hard physical labor. And then in the afternoons, it was a wrap. And a wrap could last anywhere from 5 to 7 hours, depending on who the staff member was and what was happening in the wrap. But a wrap was basically a circle of chairs, and it was attack therapy. So it was a circle of chairs in a room, and we'd all sit in it, and there would be about 20 or 25 people in a wrap. So with a few hundred kids at the school, there'd be a whole bunch of different wraps going on at the same time. And it was really, when you asked if the rules were reviewed to us like daily or something, no, but wraps were where if I saw you smile at someone, I would take you to a wrap, and then I would scream and yell at you about how you smiled at someone, and being nice is just fake and it's just a cop out. And how do you really feel about yourself and about other people? I mean, it was just sick, twisted attack therapy. And the goal was always to get the person who's being attacked to break down and cry and scream and yell at the floor about how much they hate themselves. So yeah, pretty
Were
much a
the
day.
were the rap were these raps every day?
They were Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Um, from, in the afternoon, so after lunch from like 12:30 or whatever until whatever staff member was running the rap decided to end it. um Sometimes they'd go through dinner depending on who the staff member was. um I feel like some of these things are so twisted that it's like, when I explain, for example, raps or profits to someone who doesn't have any reference point for the troubled teen industry, I feel like I get asked a lot, but why would they do that? But why would they do that? And the answer to that is because they were twisted. That, you know,
Hmm.
there's no good answer or justification or reason for why they did all these things to us. This is it was the program. It was what was supposed to be done. But it's all nonsense, and it's really hard to make sense of nonsense. Um, you know, and so anyway, this is the struggle I find myself in when trying to describe some of these things.
Hmm. It's true because I explained some of the things we did to somebody who's never experienced anything like it, and I get looked at like I have three heads.
Yeah.
And like you said, why did they do this? I don't know. I really don't know. Were the staff members graduates of the program, or did they complete the program?
So very often students would graduate and then come back to work there, or they would graduate and go to a CEDU sister school to work there. There was definitely one former student who was a staff member when I was there. But the staff, I mean, these were regular old Joes off the street. These could have been pedophiles. I mean, they didn't have to have any education or qualifications or credentials to work with kids. They didn't have to have background checks. They didn't even have to have basic teaching credentials. There was no requirement. It was like, if you're a grown up and you're willing to sadistically attack and terrify and traumatize these kids, then you have the job.
Hmm. If you didn't comply with the expectations, you weren't working the program. Um, you've got the raps, you've got the pro feats. These two opportunities, they can chew your ass and hand it back to you. Was there any other places where you felt that kind of feeling?
Um, yeah, we went on wilderness trips also,
Okay.
and those were scary also. Um, but I mean, if you didn't participate in the way they wanted you to, um, it was like they were going to make you. So if they had to yell and scream at you and tell you you were a worthless piece of shit and your parents hate you and everybody wishes you were dead, except for us, we're here helping you, and no matter what they had to say, they were going to get you to comply with the program. I mean, you were going to participate in the program, or you were going to be um, just getting the worst of it until you did.
Did your parents understand what was happening at the time?
So my dad left when I was 3, and so he didn't have you know, a part in my daily life. I found out about 6 months ago that when I was at CEDU, my dad mailed a book to CEDU for me, and it was actually a book about cults. And
Hmm.
they sent it back right away. Um, I didn't even know that till, like I said, about 6 months ago.
Hmm.
And it was really interesting when I found that out. My father's actually gone now. But my mom, um, she was she was like me. She believed that what they were doing was going to help me. And CEDU did a really good job of brochures and marketing, and all the kids are so happy. Look how well adjusted they are. They all look the same. None of them have colored hair. It was just like they're all conformed. And um so yeah, she um didn't know. But here's the thing about that. Um all of my mail was read, and if I wrote something that shouldn't have been said, they weren't going to mail the letter. I did not have access to a phone, so it's not like I could just call my mom and tell her what was happening. um
Hmm.
and all my phone calls were monitored. And if I said anything I wasn't supposed to, they were going to hang up right away. But the sneaky part of this is that if I did manage, and I did at one point somehow, to tell my mom I didn't like something that was happening there, um,
Hmm.
my mom would approach the school and say, Crystal mentioned that X, Y, and Z is happening. Is, what's going on with that? And they would say, oh, Ellie, Crystal's trying to trick and manipulate you. She just wants to go be promiscuous and do drugs. And so she's trying to lie and trick you and manipulate you. And she'll say anything she can to get you to take her home so she can do those things with boys. And, you
Hmm.
know, don't worry, we're taking care of her. So they really lied to our parents. And, you know, it's really unfortunate, because as much as that, we are the victims of this industry, our parents are definitely victims of this industry too. They're brainwashed, they're lied to, and they're tricked and manipulated into handing over their children, thinking their children are getting help, when really their children are being permanently traumatized.
Let me ask you this. I know your mom had to be concerned. Was it rightfully so? What was going on in your life at the time that she felt that she had to go to such drastic measures at 15?
So I had been arrested for public intoxication and joyriding. I took my mom's car driving around. I didn't get in an accident or anything. But
Mhm.
so it was actually the Santa Barbara County family judge. Um, he took me away from my mother and he made me a ward of the court. So he was literally and technically my guardian. And um,
Mhm.
he's the one who ordered that I go to CEDU. So um, was it rightfully so? I mean, that's the big question, right? The brainwashing that they do to us starting the moment we get to these places is usually, um, if you weren't here right now, you'd be dead. Like, we're
Mhm.
saving your life and you're welcome. And you don't have to sit there and cry and act like a victim or a baby, because you're not a victim of anything. We're helping you, right? And so,
Mhm.
could it have been just regular teenage angst and rebellion and experimenting with, drinking and drugs, and I don't know, it could have been, but we never had that opportunity to find out. And I know for a fact that of all the thousands of kids who are in these places being told that they would be dead if they weren't there, that's just a lie. There's no way on earth that 100,000 kids a year are going to die. That's just not true. And so, yeah, it's really, was it warranted? I don't know. Would I have grown out of it naturally and matured naturally? I don't know.
Mhm.
There's no way to tell, but I know for a fact that every single one of us would not be dead if we didn't go there. A lot of us would have naturally matured and grown out of our teenage angst.
A lot of people, that survive similar experience have done very well, but they'll tell you they did it in spite of the experience. You know,
Yeah, and I think
um,
everybody processes trauma differently. I mean, for me, like I said, I went there without any education. I had no, you know, I don't even know how to say it. I literally didn't know anything. So I believed what they were telling me. And it was like, well, I feel like this is scary and mean, but maybe it's right. Maybe it's supposed to be scary and mean. And maybe I do deserve this because I am bad. And maybe this will make me a
mhm.
better person. So I was really ripe for the picking at CEDU. Um, but everybody responds to trauma differently. Some people might have gone in there with definitely a more solid foundation and education on a plethora of things, including social issues and abuse and stuff like that. That it might have affected them differently simply because they went into it a little bit stronger to begin with. Um, like I
Mhm.
said, I might as well have just been born yesterday, the day I went in there. So it could be because of that it affected me so much. But also, I think that they choose certain people for certain military jobs who are more resistant to post traumatic stress disorder. And so, I mean, just everybody responds to trauma differently. Um, I do, I hear a lot of my fellow survivors right now fighting, and in spite of them, don't let them win, right? It's like, we're not gonna lay down and die because they will win if we do that. And for me, it's like I wish that sheer will could change the trauma I experience every single day as a result of what I went through. Um, but you know, for me, sheer will is just simply not enough to make it all go away. I've had 47 jobs in the last 20 years. Um, I've never been fired ever. Um, I'm an excellent worker. I've got excellent work ethic. I'm very humble and submissive, not in a bad way, but respectful and humble of all my employers. Um, and all my employers have always loved me. And um, something will happen and I'll get triggered and I'll grab all my stuff and I'll just leave and I'll never go back again. Something, whatever it was that traumatized me, um, creates this very extreme fight or flight, and I flight and I do it then, and I can't ever go back again after that. And so,
Mhm.
I've been unable to keep a job. And this is how the trauma has affected me. Trauma affects different people different ways. I wish that I could wake up in the morning and will it all away and, be a normal functional adult and keep a job for more than 3 months. And like I said, I've never been fired. All my employers have always loved me because I'm such a good worker. Um,
Mhm.
and it's just, I can't, whatever happens, and oftentimes I'm disassociated as soon as it happens, so I actually don't know what happens. But I just can't ever go back again. And it's really hard, and I wish that I could just will myself to be a functioning adult. And I've tried over and over again. And for whatever reason, this is just the way the trauma affected me.
I agree. I think, suffering is unique to the individual. This is a very subjective experience. Um, I was wondering, with your experience with the flight response, has that bled over into like relationships, or do you have that kind of pigeonholed?
Yeah, yeah, everything creates a fight or flight response in me. I mean, it's almost like, unfortunately, my peers, at CEDU, they forced us to do these things to each other. So, unfortunately, my peers are huge triggers for me. And it could be the smallest little thing that happens. And it's fight or flight. I can't have friends. I mean, like, I haven't been able to successfully keep friends or be in a relationship. Oh my gosh. I wish. I mean, wouldn't that be nice if I wasn't just alone all the time, rotting by myself? But um yeah, I mean, they put so many twisted ideas in my head about friends and friendships and relationships. And um it's such a clusterfuck. I can't. Yeah, it's like next to impossible for me to even like date.
The I don't have. Well, I'm not going to lie. I have great difficulty meeting people because I can be very reclusive, very agoraphobic. I mean, it keeps me off the streets, but it can be, I can be alone, but somehow feel very safe. And then
Mm-hmm.
what happens is people will call it, well, that's isolation. That's a poor coping mechanism. I'm like, it works great for me. I don't know what you're doing wrong, but
It works great for me too. um, CEDU had its own version of solitary confinement.
Okay.
And it wasn't in a room. Unfortunately, it was being locked in like an invisible bubble, amongst all of your friends and peers. And so you're forced to be around them, but you're not allowed to make eye contact or interact or smile or laugh or anything.
Right.
Um, so I was, um, I was in trouble, I think 3 or 4 different times where um, I was put into this isolation troubleness. And like, yeah, what I came to understand about, I think that is that when I'm alone, there's no one around to hurt me. So, like today, you will find me sitting in my room, which is about 10 by 10. It's real small. I have a twin size bed. I mean, it looks like a fucking dorm room, but I mean, this is where you'll find me. And yeah, I've been told my isolation is a very poor coping mechanism, but at the same time, I'm safe in here. I'm safe in my room. Nobody's going to hurt me. I'm not going to be tricked and lied to and manipulated and be made a fool of for believing this. I mean, it's just, there's so many things that are safe about my little cell I've created here. And, I I watch TV. All my friends live in my TV. They don't hurt me. And so I really feel like isolation might be a poor coping mechanism, but it's definitely one that works and that I feel safe implementing every day, all day.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you in the sense that, we're talking about, well, this is what I was thinking, like I said, that we, tend to suffer, uniquely to our own experience. And we also go about healing in our own experience too. I was wondering, like a complete reversal of thought here. We know, the damages that were created and long lingering after the fact. Yeah, here's a 180 question. Can you think of anything that may have helped you? I mean, I think what you described, like, could you fared well off of counseling? Maybe, sure, okay. Did you deserve 4 years? Don't think so. But out of that 4 year experience, is there anything that you think that was helped in your experience at all?
So that's always a really hard question for me to wrap my mind around because it's like, it's almost like asking me, well, you know, did you get anything positive out of being raped? you know, it's like,
Mhm.
well, you know, it's like, did your abusers, you know, did you get anything good from your abusers? So it's a strange question. Um, and I feel like um it's it's misleading because if I say, well, yeah, under the threat of whatever they were threatening me with, I got a darn good work ethic. you know, because if you didn't
Yeah,
clean it perfect, that was, you didn't want the consequence. And so,
right.
yeah, do I have an excellent work ethic? Absolutely. Is that from CEDU? Absolutely. Was it instilled in me in a positive way that was motivated by something other than fear and terror? Absolutely not. So, yeah, I got a good work ethic, but, I didn't get a good work ethic because I was taught to have a good work ethic or be proud of any job I did. I got a good work ethic because I was scared to death for my life. you know? So, yeah, but I will say my work ethic is something that while it is uh learned by and motivated by fear, it is something I carry out into the world. And um yeah, I appreciate my work ethic Would I have developed such a good work ethic had I not been at CEDU? Probably, because I am not the type of person who's going to be given a job and then let somebody walk by and it looks like shit and then go, oh yeah, that was my duty. It looks like shit, you know. I mean, I'm a little more of a perfectionist than that anyway by nature. So yeah, I guess that's the answer to that. Yeah, I got a good work ethic. Could I have got it anyway? Yeah.
It is a tough question. I wish I could apologize for it, but I can't. But it's a lead up to another question is, in my community, in the straight incorporated survivor community, there's people who have a completely different outview on the experience. The straight incorporated saved their lives. They wouldn't be where they are today if it weren't for straight. And it's a completely different experience from mine. Now, granted, they may have come in because I went into the early phases of straight incorporated, and it was more of a mind fuck. And in the last 15 to 20 years of its existence, it was a mind fuck plus violence. I was 14 years old when I went in, and I know people who were 18 and 20 when they went in. So they're going to have a different experience. How do you react to people like that?
So I'm really big on facts and definitions of words. So and by the way, I hear this all the time from people. Oh no, they saved my life. You know, I'd be dead if I wasn't there. Well, the first thing I want to point out to them is that is exactly what we were all trained to say. So it's like, first of all, you've been trained to say that, and you've adopted it as your own belief, and you think it's your original belief, but there are hundreds of thousands of us that for years were brainwashed and were like, oh no, but they saved my life. I'd be dead if I wasn't there. That's a trained response that we were all trained to give when inquired about our experience. And so when I hear that response, it's an automatic red flag for me, and it's an automatic tell for me that that person is still brainwashed and they're still regurgitating exactly whatever it is they were trained to regurgitate. So my first response is always, how interesting that you said that. Did you know that 100,000 other people say the same exact thing because we were trained to, you know? And then I like when I hear people say this, I get it. I was brainwashed. You know, my best friend Aaliyah, my little sister from CEDU, she tried to tell me for years that they brainwashed me and abused me. And I was like, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Stockholm syndrome forever. No, they didn't. They saved my life. I'd be dead if I wasn't there. You know, like, yeah. But when I hear people say these things, one thing I like to point out is that they're regurgitating what they've been trained to. So first of all, let's use our critical thinking skills and really take a look at that, because it's like, you're not the only one saying that. There's 100,000 kids saying it. So what gives, right? And then the other thing I like to point out is that abuse has a definition, and that if you were screamed, so at CEDU, I was screamed and yelled at a lot for hours and hours and hours every week that I was a whore. And, you know, so grown men staff would yell and scream at me for hours that I was a dirty little slut and a whore. And then they would have me come sit on their lap so they could rub my back, which is called smushing. So if you just look objectively at some of the experiences that we went through at CEDU, you can see objectively, this is abuse. You know, this is not okay. So for people who are like, I wasn't abused, that's fine. congratulations, but you were. The bottom line is you were
Mhm.
sleep deprived. Improv feats, they sleep deprived us. They cut us off from contact from the outside world. I couldn't have called the police if I wanted to say that something bad was happening to me. And that's a huge red flag right there. I mean, it's like abuse has a definition. And, you know,
Yes.
it's like, so people who are say I wasn't abused there, first of all, they're lying. They're brainwashed. They don't know they were abused. But abuse has a definition. And the fact is, they were abused. It might have affected them differently, and that's fine. Everybody processes trauma differently, but they were abused. It doesn't matter how you spin it, they were.
Do you, sometimes I think, and let me know what you think, that a lot of times I personally think it's just another coping mechanism, a way to keep things nice and safe. If I can stay in a delusion for a period of time, I'll be all right. And the problem with disillusionment, it's a good word. Disillusionment is an awesome word. It means we're no longer under an illusion. Unfortunately, that's just not very comfortable, you know, because I was the same way as you were describing. There was rumblings in the community about PTSD. I served. I was in the military. I know what PTSD is, and PTSD is reserved for the servicemen. PTSD is reserved for the rape victim. PTSD is somebody that saw a plane crash or something. And slowly, I began to see like rages. I could sit and my wife would ask me when she got home, well, what'd you do today? And I was like, I made it to the couch. I don't, and I couldn't remember what I've done, if anything,
Yeah.
if anything. If we would have had this same conversation when you graduated, do you think you would have I mean, how would that differ between then and now, this conversation?
Um, I would have said it was great. It saved my life. I think every kid should go to CEDU. Saved my life. Yeah, it was wonderful. That's what I would have said. And
Okay.
actually, I would have said that even though, so I didn't actually graduate. I went through the whole entire program and they kicked me out 2 weeks before graduation. So I didn't even actually get to graduate
Okay.
with my peers. I went through the whole program, but 2 weeks before graduation, I ran away. I don't know. Anyway, I ran away and they brought me back, locked me in a room for a week, and then put me on a bus and sent me home. I didn't get to say bye to any of my peers or the staff or any of these people that I lived with for almost 3 years and came to believe that they loved me. That was really traumatic also and really hurt me. And but at the time I understood it. I was bad. I was bad for running away, and I was a bad influence on all these other kids who were there because I ran away. And so they were right to send me home. I really was brainwashed. I was like on board with the program. I believed everything they taught me and told me. I took it all to heart. I left there thinking jewelry and music was bad and horrible, and that any woman who has sex and enjoys it is a horrible, dirty little slut and a whore and is bad. I mean, I really took to heart every single solitary thing from CEDU. So, had we had this conversation right when I was kicked out, I would have said, they saved my life. I'd be dead if I hadn't gone there. That's what I would have said.
I think what you're describing, we were talking about the fight or flight thing, and I think there's another F in there, and it's called fawning. Oh, they saved me. There's just that sense of reverence almost, and you want to write letters and Christmas cards.
Yeah.
You know, it's I came out of Straight Incorporated thinking, you know, I could change the world. I really did. Fact was, is I couldn't change a car tire. You know, I was just, they filled my head with a lot of crap about myself that it was unnecessary. Um, I was wondering, and you're in the final stretch now, Crystal. Um, why did you want to do this interview with me?
Um, it's always interesting for me to talk about my experience, having somebody else kind of lead that discussion, um, because then I get to see what my answers are. So it's kind of a process for me to see how I feel and what I think. You know, I don't always know. And
Hmm.
so um yeah, it's really always a good opportunity for me to be able to have reflected back to me kind of what I think and feel at any given point in time about this, because this is such a crazy spider web of a clusterfuck. Like everything they do, everything they did to us. I mean, cults are, they're just so intricate and deliberate and crazy. And you're right. I left there thinking that I was better than other people because I had answers they didn't have. And I had these experiences that they didn't have. And I had a leg up on everyone. And, you know, all these things. I mean, this is just very, very typical of this culty type of nonsense. So it's always interesting for me to have an opportunity also to discuss what happened in an effort to raise awareness, you know, that these really are not high quality therapeutic boarding schools. In fact, they're usually meccas for pedophiles because you don't need a background check to work in the private sector for profit troubled teen industry. And so, you know, I'd say those are the two reasons. You know, one, it's always interesting for me to get to see what I think and feel because I don't always know. And two, people need to know that this is still going on and that it's still happening and it never was good and it never will be good. You know, it needs regulation and oversight. You know, evidence based treatment only. You know, like so many things need to be put in place. But yeah, so those are my two reasons for wanting to do this interview today.
I I want to answer my own question of why I wanted to do the interview. Um, when I spoke with you on the phone, I told you, I said I knew about CEDU survivors. And for 20 years, I just knew there were CEDU survivors. I'd read little. And you were the first voice that ever came from a CEDU survivor that I had heard. And I followed that up, and I saw your YouTube channel, and it just exploded on my page, you know, and it was like, this woman thinks like I do.
Yeah, yeah.
She thinks like I do, and it's really been a fascinating conversation and a whole experience for me because I feel the way you do. I find it fascinating to learn about other programs because I kept my head in the sand so long, just trying to wrap my head around Straight Incorporated. And, you know, really admired what I saw and you know, what a brilliant way to tell the story in snippets. And I was really impressed with that. Um, so I just wonder if there's anything else that you wanted to say before we concluded.
Well, I want to say thank you for your kind words. That means everything to me. I thought about how I wanted to tell my story, and um, you know, I'm just a hippie locked in a room watching TV, smoking too many cigarettes. So, like, It's really, yeah, it took me, you know, it's like, do I want to write my story? Do I want a video? Like what it was like, what do I want to talk about? And I kind of came to like, well, I'm just going to be me. So it's going to be anytime I have a thought about CEDU, I'm going to pick up my phone and I'm going to say it into my phone. So I chose
Mhm.
deliberately this method of telling my story in these little snippets, and to just do it raw and no, not even brushing my hair, like hardly I even do anything. Um, but I thought about how I wanted to tell my story, and that seemed the most authentic to me. And I really, really, really appreciate your kind words about how you like those. And because I still judge it, I still go, oh no, everyone else's are better, mine are stupid or whatever. But it's totally my storytelling style. And I really, really appreciate that you took a look at some of my videos, and I really am grateful for your kind words about them. Those are the things that kind of keep me here and keep me going right now.
Well, Crystal, I'm not the only one that watches those videos.
Yeah, a couple people, I have actually printed out some really nice things people say. And I did get a little voice message one time from Paris, and she was like, hey, and it was funny, I could hear the water running in the background, and she was like, hey, I'm just laying here in
Mhm.
the bath watching your videos. And I was like,
Well,
oh
that's cool.
no. Yeah.
I never thought in my life of lives that I would have anything in common with Paris Hilton.
Right, yeah, yeah, yep,
And when I saw her uh, This Is Paris documentary, I did real good. I saw pretty much what I saw of Paris all my life. And then a little bit into the story, and I don't want to say I'm jaded or anything, but I was just listening.
yep,
And when they got into the gathering, when all the survivors gathered, I about fell out of my chair sobbing. It was such an emotional thing. I've done it. I've met over easily 100 of my own, clan, if you will. And
yeah,
each time it's very emotional. And, when you look into the eyes of another survivor, you just know. And it's so weird because you complete each other's sentences, you know the other thoughts. You don't have to explain yourself. It's just a wonderful experience. And what I'm finding from this little project is you went to a place at a different time than I did, in a different location. It comes from a different lineage. It has
yep,
different modalities. But at the end of the day, I recognize me in you.
yep,
You do.
yeah, yeah. That's the really amazing thing about the Breaking Code Silence movement and all of these survivors coming forward, is that it used to be me telling a story that nobody believed. And because they were like, why would anyone do that? You must be making it up. Why would
Mhm.
anyone do that? You must be mistaken. That didn't happen. And now it's like, not only am I believed, but I'm learning that all these places were basically exactly the same, with different cult lingo and different, you
Mhm.
know, I mean, just different words to describe the same things, but that we're all basically like twinsies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
But yeah,
I
it's nice
think it,
to feel understood finally.
yeah. I think a lot about living in survivor land, if you will. Um, that there's a price to be paid for living in survivor land, and rents due every day.
Yep.
Every day rents due. Um, but I want to thank you for spending this time with me and sharing your story. And I'm sure people will definitely listen to it.
Thank you so much for your time and for reaching out and for even wanting to talk to me. I really appreciate all your kind words.
Well, you're quite welcome. I'll talk to you soon. And anytime you want to add an addendum, or if you want to go over 5 minutes in your phone, holler at me and we'll get you up there again. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.